Welcome to the Marketing Mirror. As we take you on an adventure into social media with Sue Ann of Right Mix for Business and co-host Jamie Shine of Clearly Conveyed Communications. Sue Ann and Jamie invite you to share in all the latest as we find out if social media is broken, what to do about it, and how it changes your marketing today.
Sue Ann and Jamie will explore the latest in social media marketing and cover the topics you need to know.
Hello and welcome. And how is everyone today? Hi, James.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good. It's always crazy around here because we're always busy creating and writing and marketing away because that's the way it is. I'm so excited about today's topic because story is a part of our lives. And as we're heading towards Father's Day weekend, one of my favorite storytellers was always my dad. Happy Father's Day in heaven, Pap, Dad. But he was the greatest storyteller. In fact, when I spoke at his funeral, it was so funny that afterwards, one of my girlfriends who I've known since we were kids came up to me and said, "You should be a comedian. You should do a comedy act." But the truth is, James, those are all my dad's stories. I probably, I probably could do a comedy act based on his stories. But my dad always made us laugh. He used to get me in trouble in church, for example. But I think it always reminds me of a Joni Mitchell lyrics where she said, "Laughing and crying, it's the same release." And it makes me think of my dad with his humor. His humor was, a good way to, make anything funny and fun instead of, misery. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I just miss him every day. Hi, Dad. Love you, Dad, wherever you're experiencing in your new life, afterlife. Anyway, happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. We love you. We know you work hard and you do so much for
Yes.
everyone, and we appreciate that. So let's jump into today's topic. What do you think, James?
Absolutely. Sounds good. And also, hi to Gordisman.
Oh, Gord. That's my friend
Gord.
Gord.
Yeah,
He
we
made
dropped
it.
in. Thanks
I'm
for
putting him
stopping
up.
by.
Hi, Gord. We love seeing you. What a nice surprise. Thank you, sir. Good to see Gord. And he's a prolific storyteller, too, I might add, while we're on the topic. So here comes a quick, again, I did pre-record a quick entrance or intro to our topic because I feel like I get tongue-tied on these lives. And so to be careful, some of my intros were recording. Here you go. Wondering how to flavor your content with story? Today on the Marketing Mirror, we're going to give you a flavor framework to infuse story components into the interest-driving content you're creating for your organic social media content hub. A story's ability to enter the brain even before we're aware of it and to remain in a person's memory are only parts of how a story resonates with people. And because it tracks so strongly, integrating a story into your content and social media marketing is a powerful play and a great way to spice up your content series, characters, or escalating elements in an effective content strategy. Sounds great, right? But I know what you're thinking. How do I do it? Don't worry. Sue Ann, Jamie, and Marketing Millie, of course, have you covered in today's topic. Thanks for checking out the Marketing Mirror. Am I too funny saying Sue Ann? So here's the thing. Here's the thing. Taking your content from flat to flamboyantly flavorful is only a tiny story away. But what's flavor in the context of content? And how can we use flavor to power up content media using story? That's what we're after today. Do you think we can find it, James?
Yes, absolutely.
Let's get into it. I'm going to share the screen because, as always, I have a plan, and as always, I'm starting on the last page instead of the first. You know how I do that every time. And here we go. Here's the real thing. And I can probably, let me try to make this a little bit bigger on the screen for us. I think we've been doing that, but I have to switch
it's
the
good.
view.
It's good. We can just go.
Okay. What's interesting too is that I'm working with Riverside. We're working with Riverside with these live broadcasts. In case you guys are interested, that are doing content live, and it's been a little bit tricky. And one of the people that spoke with us last week, that popped into the show, Neil, he was doing a show about using a stream deck with your live performances or live shows. And I thought that was really cool because it might make my awkward and clumsy switching a little bit more fluent. But what's interesting is in the conversation mentioned that I'm going to maybe try to integrate it with using Riverside. And he sounds like he tried Riverside and he's over it. So if anyone has any background or information on Riverside that we're testing, please let us know your impression of it. And if you're using a stream deck or if it's possible, let us know that too. Now, back to our previously sponsored programming. Okay. I have to keep doing more than one thing, and you know that's tricky, guys. All right, here we go. So we talked about interest-driving content and what and how, and new organic content formulas and models and examples in the last couple shows, which was really great. And we talked about how powerful content formulas for organically attracting, engaging, and retaining people can be done using these interest-driving content techniques, like creating a series and like using characters and so many of the things that we've talked about. But now we want to know, how can we incorporate story? How do we flavor our content with story? And so today, that's the big question. So what's interesting about story and flavor, okay, putting it in context of flavor, and what do we mean? I'm sorry, I'm having trouble. I keep getting off my page here. Sorry, guys. What do we mean? What is a flavor framework? Well, the first thing that makes something a flavor framework is that you're touching on emotion, that you're actually impacting someone's emotion in telling your story. And go ahead, James.
And that's super important. We hear all the time about you have to solve the customer's problem. And at the end of the day, that's true. But we both feel like creating emotional content and tapping into people's emotions is very underrated. It's not talked about enough. I actually went to a digital marketing summit a few years ago, and that is one of the highlights that they were talking about, how important emotional content is. In fact, whether you're talking about organic content or advertising, advertising campaigns are twice as effective when they use emotional content versus rational content, because people do
That's
make them.
statistically proven, right? I mean, I
Yes,
think you said you just saw a statistic that says when you meet someone emotionally, it's that much more effective.
absolutely. It's, in fact, an emotional response to an ad, or if they're seeing your content, has far greater influence on someone's intent to buy, whether it's to buy your product or use your services, than the ad's content does. So you really have to connect emotionally. It's not optional.
And I think I think that's one of the things when we're creating content. How often do we say, what feeling is this post or this piece of content, this video, this post, this whatever it is, what feeling is this supposed to create? And Lisa points out emotions create responses more often, which we absolutely agree with. And
Yes.
that's why, you know, I mean, I'm guilty. I don't think what feeling is this post or video, or I don't think about what feeling, but really that's the first thing we should be thinking about, right?
Yes.
How do we meet them with a feeling? How do we like enter the brain emotionally? Because if you do that, you're really overtaking everything else. And then we want to think about perspective, which is whose eyes are we seeing this through? Will it be you? Will it be a client? Will it be a moment in time? Whatever perspective that we're going to grant with what we produce is something that's really important. And we want to, if possible, present a unique point of view. So we might want to ask, like, after an emotion, what is the unique point of view that might be revealed? And also, when we think about whose eyes we are seeing this through, I just want to remind everyone that we know that we're not the hero of the story. Our answer, our service, our product, our brand is not the hero of the story. The customer is the hero of the story. And we've learned this, of course, from our friend Donald Miller from
Yes.
StoryBrand. Then to clean up the, you know, you made the emotional connection. You've given a perspective either of where you're coming from in the story as the hero or as the owner, or you yourself as the brand, or from something that happened, a moment, a particular incident. But then you're twisting, you're really giving it the bam by giving it a specific detail. Because at the specific detail now, you're adding clarity. And so if you give one concrete detail, it'll make it feel, back to that emotional thing, more real. So if you offer a place, a quote, an object, and people love numbers, if you use numbers, that frames your point and showcases it as an expected, like, future outcome. Like, what will it look like in as we move into the future? I think that's really important.
Yes.
So then the next step is taking those three things that we're calling our flavor framework, you know, making sure you have emotion, perspective, and detail, that specificity. Say that word for me.
That's one of those tongue twisters.
You know what I mean. But how do we incorporate that into a story? I say it can actually be a simple story framework all on its own. Let's look at how that might work. So the key would be that we want to take that our message is our key. So that's the point of clarity and connection. That's emotional. So if in your core message, your core topic, you can make an emotional connection with your audience or listener or viewer or customer, then through the message you'll hit that emotional connection, and that is the beginning of a story. And then your center can be the scene that you create, and that can be a story as simple as a descriptive little story set, maybe a line or two that supports that connection that you've made emotionally, but by setting up a scene, a story, a situation. And then the spice is adding that bam of specificity.
And
Specificity.
before we move on, you mentioned Donald Miller, who we're both high on. He actually posted a tremendous case study. You're talking about the message and how important that is. And we're always talking about speaking in your audience's language and speaking to their needs. And it's so important because he actually posted a case study about Merrill Labs, company with good products. Their message was confusing. And your brain actually has to work to understand when you're creating content for your audience. The harder you make them work to understand your message and to connect with you, they're going to space out and go somewhere else or start daydreaming. So you have to make it easy for them to connect with you, understand what you're saying. he went into Mara Lab's website and changed 6 words to really hone in on the message to their audience, and their revenue jumped 400% just from making minor tweaks to the
Wow.
message. That's how powerful it is, that you have to hone in on what your audience is looking for and make it easy for them to understand that and to get that aha moment. The harder you make them work for it, you're going to lose them. So, message is extremely important. I think it's great that you started with that. It's
It's
you've
so
got to
funny
nail the
you brought up
message.
Donald Miller and making the clarity of the message. What I remember talking about Donald Miller first was his grunt test. Yeah, have you
Yes.
ever heard of the grunt test? Because he
Mhm.
said, people, they don't want to think. They want to hop on your website and bam, have the message, the information hit them in the head without them having to do any work at all. So
Yes.
he called it like the grunt test, meaning like, an ape could look at it and get something out of it. Like,
Mhm.
you don't have to speak, just, you get it. I'll have to look that back up, but it was an interesting way to put it with the grunt test to keep
Mhm.
it so simplified and so clear that even an ape can understand exactly what you mean. My thinking is that our job in creating an emotional connection, in telling a story, in creating a series or characters, is that we want to keep things moving. We want to keep things moving along. We want people to stay interested. We want them to feel moved, perhaps emotionally, or we want them to feel like taking an action. So I think the most important part of connecting with a story is creating action in what we do with our content and with our what happens with our content. It shouldn't just be a one and done. It should make you want to do more or go to the next step or find out more or interact more with the brand. We want to create momentum and action. I just want to throw that in there because I like that little motion graphic. I had to
That's
throw
a
it
cool
in.
graphic.
So there's a guy named Calloway who is arguably the greatest storyteller on YouTube. He's been called the greatest storyteller on YouTube. So, oh, Lisa loved your story with Donald Miller. Thank you, Lisa. We appreciate that.
Yes.
And I'm glad to see you're here. I know you had something going on today, and you still made it. You're awesome. Everyone is awesome who watches now live or on the replay. Please let us know what you think. Please give us your questions and opinions on things. We appreciate that. But looking at Callaway, he just did a video talking about story, and I had to check in because he's known as one of the best storytellers on YouTube. So he said there's forgettable content and there's bingeable content and there's informative content, sure, and there's narrative content. And it got him thinking about what makes some creators invisible and what makes some creators just jamming it, just skyrocketing. And he decided that neuroscience, that pattern-based storytelling is the key. And I think we've been discovering that with some of the stuff that we've been doing too. I've talked before about my friend Lee's channel with Ham Radio Gizmos, and one of the first videos on that channel is one that I helped him with, and it has over 400,000 views. But I'm going to say it's because it was based on a story. And not only was it a rich story, but the we ran it through the test of whether it met a story frame guideline, and we used Freytag's pyramid, which we'll talk about another time. I wanted to start more basic than that, but what I'm saying is that washing something through a story could lead to an explosion like 400,000 some views, like with that case. So it's interesting that the neuroscience, as we've been talking about too, is so meaningful in creating a story because you're dealing with the person's brain before you're dealing with the person, is
Yep.
how it actually works. Callaway says the brain is a predictive machine. that it's constantly trying to figure out what's next, like it's moving ahead of what it hears, and that stories that create that tension between that prediction, what they think, and that uncertainty, not knowing if that is what it's going to be, drives dopamine. And of course, dopamine is like candy for the brain. We like it, we want more. And so we talked about some of the techniques to accomplish that, which he also mentions those things like cliffhangers, open loops, and questions to keep the brain slightly off balance. And I don't know if we said it that way about keeping it slightly off balance, but really it's about enacting that curiosity drive, that curiosity gap, I guess you would say. And so we've been looking into that. And so the next thing I want to share with you, this is interesting, I think, is so as I was doing a lot of the research for brain hacks and using story and how marketing uses story, I had been putting a lot of stuff into my Perplexity, of course. And what's interesting is that it asked me if it wanted the computer on Perplexity to create a video explaining 3 of the most important parts of, whoops, I did that wrong again, James. You knew I would, huh? But that's okay. I'll find it and we'll put it up. But Perplexity actually created a video that explains to you why it's so important to talk to the brain. And I thought this was really a good little intro for why this stuff matters. So I'm going to share that quick video with you now.
Your brain makes decisions before you even know it. It shuts down your thinking when emotions run high, and it comes alive when it hears a story. These are 3 unconscious reactions happening inside your head right now. 7 seconds. That is.
I think we lost the audio.
Has
Uh-oh.
already chosen. You just do not know it yet.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
When a strong emotion strikes, your amygdala hijacks.
That didn't have audio.
Well, it cut off after the 7 seconds.
Let me try that one more time, guys. It's really a quick video, but I think it's so important how it explains where your brain is ahead of you. I think I see what happened. Let me see if I can figure it out. Okay. It's so weird how this screen share thing works. It's so weird. Okay, I got it. And I got the sound. Let's go.
All right.
Oops, I have to hit play maybe.
Your
I'm sorry,
brain
guys.
makes decisions before you even know it. It shuts down your thinking when emotions run high, and it comes alive when it hears a story. These are 3 unconscious reactions happening inside your head right now.
7 seconds. That is how far ahead your subconscious mind makes a decision before your conscious mind catches up. Researchers using brain scans discovered that neural activity predicting a choice appears long before a person feels they have decided. Your brain has already chosen. You just do not know it yet.
When a strong emotion strikes, your amygdala hijacks the brain. It floods your system with stress hormones, and your prefrontal cortex, the rational thinking center, goes quiet. Logic, reason, and careful analysis are simply overridden. In that moment, emotion is in control, and cognition takes a backseat.
Tell someone a story and something remarkable happens. The brain activates its theory of mind network, the same regions used to understand other people's thoughts, feelings, and intentions. A good story does not just inform, It makes the listeners simulate the experience as if living it themselves.
Decisions made before awareness. Emotions overriding logic. Stories activating empathy. Your unconscious brain is always running the show.
That was fascinating.
So, what do you think? What's really neat to me is that that was actually made without me touching it by Perplexity's computer function.
I wonder if it mentioned that your subconscious is running 7 seconds ahead of your actual conscious thought. I wonder if that's where the FCC got the 7 second delay for broadcasts. I just
Interesting
that
thought.
immediately popped into my head. Is that where they got that from? Because you may subconsciously make a decision to swear.
That is so funny. That is so funny. Also, I'm actually amazed at that video, but what's really good is that it did succinctly point out really I mean there were that was tons and tons and tons of research, and it really succinctly set out three things in particular that has to do with the brain and the brain sucking up those stories that you create and how important that emotional positioning is going to be.
Well, and I've seen other studies on what it was talking about, how your subconscious is running ahead of you, and that's playing right into where we're going with this. People are always talking about you need to be new and novel and different, and we're going to get into why it helps to be familiar to people, because the fact that your subconscious is running ahead of that, if it sees something familiar, it grabs onto that, and you make people feel comfortable and attract them to you. So stay tuned.
Perfect. Perfect. So Callaway continues to tell us that move from making just those isolated tips or facts and move that into a serialized story. It's one way to actually make this happen. And if you've never built continuity, if you never build continuity, through a same character, through a quest, through some type of story arc, then it's hard for people to get that emotional habit that's wrapped around you and your content. And that's important, I think, to point out that, you have to build purposefully to do this, I think.
And that's one of the reasons we keep going back to talking about creating series and episodic content. It's so important in forming that emotional connection with your audience.
So, how do you get a narrative pattern or build a repeatable story act rather than the point is that you will then not be having to reinvent the wheel every single time, which, I think is the main thing. I think he's saying that you want to he shows that forgettable content versus content that makes you binge, the hinging factor might be the flavor, the story. And so his message to us is that we should stop posting random content, which is what we've been mentioning too, and build that consistent, we'll call it a story engine that repeatedly hooks the same audience. It has a familiar narrative that they can't wait to check out. And because the brain is a predictive machine, it's going to stick with that. It's going to become sticky for those reasons. So he gives you a really simple formula, which again, I wanted to start simple here so that we could all grasp it and build on it and learn from it and, make it bigger as we go. He suggests that you have these 5 things for your repeatable story arc. He wants you to have a clear protagonist. He wants you to have concrete goals and stakes. So the protagonist, again, could be you, it could be an avatar, or it could be your client. Usually you want the hero. If we want to listen to the smart Donald Miller, the hero is often going to be the customer
Yeah.
or the user, the viewer, whatever. And the concrete goals and stakes have to be obvious. We have to line it up so that people can understand what the character wants, why it matters that they win or lose, why it matters so much. Um, in a way, I look at it as similar to the copywriting thing, problem, agitate, solve. So when you show the stakes, you're actually agitating the problem. Like you want to show like the worst case scenario. You want people to be like, oh, recognize their self in that problem, and
Yes.
kind of like make it grow exponentially, so that we're saying you got to do something about it. You
Well, and
can't
that
just have the problem.
that may seem obvious, but I think that's where some brands fall short. The goals or the stakes that they're creating are something that they're interested in. It has to be something that your customer or your audience is interested in and can see themselves in. If it's not, there's going to be a huge disconnect and they're not going to be interested.
And Gord does comment on my B-roll from.
And that's Gord makes a great point. Like one of the best things, I mean, I've used AI for create a character or we've talked about mascots for your business or characters. Use AI to create that. Have fun with it.
One thing I think everybody should know if they haven't heard, I'm just going to throw this out kind of off the topic a little, but Chat GPT is going to be dis using, avowing, they're going to be discontinuing, I guess is the word, GPTs, which if you're building a lot of content using your specific GPTs, this could be a problem for a lot of people. Let me
Ooh,
throw
yeah.
that out right now. If you're using GPTs that have a lot of stuff built in them, you need to transfer that in some way. Have you heard this, Gord, about the GPTs? Because I'm not sure if that'll affect you because you're building so beyond everybody else I know, but that is something new and I think important to people who are working in Chat GPT. If they haven't heard, their custom GPTs are being discontinued. Anyway, back to what we're talking about. Uh, Moving on. So you have to have those obstacles so people understand, and you create the tension. You really stir the pot of the problem, and then there's that moment of insight or the reversal of the problem. The solution is apparent, and of course we have to try to create an open loop so that people continue to come back for that next thing. We want to keep that question going. What are we going to learn next? What are we going to do next? Because around here, you just never know. You have to stop back on our shows. So he
Creating an emotional.
recommends, he recommends that you identify your story lane. So it could be like a central theme that you tell over and over. Like, I help XYZ kind of person do XYZ. That can be like the single lane that everything in your series is built out. You can be about learning in public, which is a little bit of what we do here. We're learning in public and we're sharing what we're learning in public and we're building in public. Last week, if you missed, go back because we built out a hybrid organic social campaign working off of Neil Patel's organic written web work, and we moved it into a whole hybrid organic social media marketing campaign in many ways. It was a great exercise, and it help you build out your stories and your content and your series and characters and all the good stuff. So he's saying also anchor every piece of content within that lane so that it helps frame the content as an ongoing story. I think this is really great advice, you guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to get bam, custom characters, you're going to have story series that are built, and you're going to have value drops per episode. You got to bring that value with each time, and that's going to happen even if you use this simple framework that Callaway shared, and think about what we shared with how you flavor everything. They work together perfect. And this leads us right into story plots. Story plots. Am I missing anything else here? Let me make sure. Got everything. Okay. So these story plots are probably familiar to anyone and everyone who's ever watched a movie or really taken in any kind of content, because you'll see this a lot. Do you recognize these, Jamie?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. They're out there, right? So we have overcoming the monster, who survives escalating danger and ultimately will defeat it, freeing themselves or the community. We have rags to riches, which is a sympathetic character that starts maybe disadvantaged or rises or in some way downtrodden. They rise to success or love. They may
That's a
face the
popular one.
reversal. There's a transformation involved usually. I'm sorry.
It's a popular one.
Gord, everybody here, I got to put this up.
Yes, yeah. Gord filling us in here.
Yeah, because the way I heard it sounds different than the way he understands it, so we need to know that. For the rest of us, unless we're business or enterprise, it should not be an issue. On the Chat GPT comment. Good to know. We're learning as we're here live with you guys, which is the greatest. So this is a quest, right? We set out with a vital goal. We endure trials and temptations, and we will reach a final decision in order to win the big prize. We love the quest as a story type plot. And there's the voyage and the return, like what it looks like before we went and what it looks like when we get back through the experience of other worlds. We've entered unfamiliar places. We wander, and there's a mounting threat maybe, but we escape back home with a hard-won insight, which I love. And comedy, like I mentioned at the beginning with my dad, Pappy, had a lot of comedy put into it. And confusions and misunderstandings tangle relationships in a small world until the truths are revealed and the story resolves into reconciliation and unity. That's usually how comedy runs. And then, of course, there's tragedy, where the protagonist has flaws and the choices that pull them into deeper trouble, and there's pressure that escalates, and so on. And they're either left destroyed or ruined. It's not a good thing. It's a tragedy. And then we have, of course, rebirth, which can be literal or psychological. But ultimately, you're redeemed, you're awakened, and you're renewed and not destroyed. And, you know, a lot of us have Gord, for example, who's on today with us. He has a really great rebirth story. He was in a dire situation, and he's come back so strong and so impressive with everything that he does. But it wasn't easy, and there was a time when he was scared, would he even make it? And get to know Gord. He's worth knowing, guys. So an example of these that you guys all know would be the rags to riches, right? Like Cinderella.
Mm-hmm.
Good thing she lost that slipper, or what would have happened.
Yeah.
And when I was thinking about this, another rags to riches that came to me was Pretty Woman with Julia Roberts. How about Annie with Daddy Warbucks and, you know, a little orphan? And
Yeah.
my favorite is Trading Places, right? Trading Places.
Absolutely.
I love this comment from Gord. And AI is another rebirth.
Yeah, that's true.
In so many ways, right? Especially if you're using it how he is. We're going to bring Gord's on, or talk more about some of his stuff in a whole episode coming sooner or later, as soon as he's ready. Anyway, so these basic plots can be turned into a story template. So let's get to how can we use this for real in our business? Let's move to what we know the stuff, but how can a business or brand use these frameworks to tell their stories? Can they actually work with these frameworks that I just showed you, with these plot summaries? You know, can your business be telling a story about overcoming a monster? Really? Let's find out. Well, we can. We can create templates using those 7 basic plots. We can have a template for each plot and then build into it. We can start with roles: the role of the hero, the role of the monster, the role of the product or the service, or, the saving, redeeming solution. We have to map out the plots and match them to brand stories to do this. Pretty cool, right, James?
Yeah.
So to plot it out, the first thing that we want to do with our template is just have a sentence for each thing in. So this is going to happen over and over again, because each piece of content in your series is going to have its own story. So for each piece of content, you're going to have a little simple build out that talks about who is the hero, what is the problem or the monster blocking them, what are the stakes or the costs, what are the plans, like how are we going to turn this around, what is the proof that this situation is resolved and resolved in a positive or however way we're trying to have the resolution show up, and what is the next step for the character or for you. I think this is great. Again, you might want to write this down or screenshot this, because this is your framework right here. This is your template. Then you're going to map plots in through that template to create brand stories, and this is where it gets really good. So, how about this, you guys? Overcoming the monster. The buyer has a fear or a clear threat. For example, you can't be a realtor unless you keep your real estate certifications up to date. You can get thrown off of platforms if you don't comply with the rules. So you might need to know those immediately because you have something important and you don't want to run into an issue. There might be an outage, a storm, a safety thing. Whatever that monster is, if your product or service or solution overcomes that monster, you might make a really great story by identifying the big buyer fear, the big monster that your customer might be facing. It might be they have a clogged toilet and they need the best plunger. It doesn't matter what that big monster is, you guys. That's the point. This can be really tailored to any story, right?
Yeah.
The transformation. So you want to think if you're going to do a rags to riches or a rebirth, you're going to want to think about what is the transformation? What is the identity level transformation that takes someone from stuck to thriving, from downtrodden to beholden?
And this is such a popular one. I mean, we've talked before about selling an aspiration, or where your audience wants to be. Like, and that's actually came up quite a bit when we were talking about Pinterest, because that's a very aspirational platform. But this type of structure, people like it. It resonates with people.
I think these are. It's so good to see this in simplified like this, because I don't think that you automatically think this way without, someone pointing it out. Maybe like how we're pointing it out right now.
Well, and it helps if people are feeling overwhelmed. It helps break it down. It shows people how to get started, so you're not sitting here going, I can't do this. You can do this if you break it down to what the framework is to get started.
And Lisa's mentioning that she loves Trading Places. That's one of my favorites. There's so many Eddie Murphy movies that I love. I just think his stuff is so good. Like Coming to America is another one that I talk about, because I talk about like how he takes such pride in his work, as like even the janitor when he's sweeping the floor. I feel like that is what makes the world go around. I feel like the janitor is part of every business. Without the guy keeping the place clean or cleaning up the mess or keeping the facility in the state that you need in order to conduct business, the whole rest of it falls. So even the
Yeah.
smallest cog in the wheel, the janitor, is super important. And Eddie Murphy, when he's playing, the royalty, he takes pride in sweeping the floor at the, not McDonald's, but the whatever, the fake McDonald's. But
Yeah.
I love, that's one of my favorite scenes, is just the pride in his work. Oh, Lisa love. See, it's her absolute favorite.
Oh, that's
See,
funny.
that's too funny, Lisa. These are two of my favorite movies too. It's funny that Lisa and I are friends, and here's probably another reason why.
Yeah.
But yeah, because we can see the beauty in something like that. Another one I like is with Alan, or with um oh gosh, I can picture the movie, but I can't think of the name right now. It'll come to me before we're done. It's a oh geez, I do this every time. I guess I'm getting old, or I'm just so worried about everything I'm trying to do when I'm doing the lives, I get discombobulated. But that's why you need to go on a quest sometimes.
Yes.
And I love the idea of a quest. I kind of was trying to build How to Bling Your Blog and Feed That Hog like a quest that you go on the journey, and together in the learning group, we actually implement building the concepts as we go through them along the blog transformation highway, and actually work on your own work along with doing learning as we go through the course. So it was really an interesting way to present a quest, I thought. But can you think of other quest examples, Jane? I'm not having one right now.
Um, Structured journey. I'm thinking of course, ones pop into my head for some of the other ones.
Well, how about even stuff like on TV today, like Survivor or something?
Oh, that's true.
Is
A
that a
lot of these
quest?
shows are very popular, and a lot of times there's like a structured journey shows. I meant like game shows or participant shows like that, where there's a structured journey to complete.
I love these ideas. And then there's voyage and return. So you go out in one way and you come back in another. And that's really that's part of a transformation that we do want to show people with our products and services a lot of times. So that one's probably going to land pretty well, pretty good for people, right?
Yes. Yeah.
If they can use this in marketing to take your buyer on a voyage and return all the more shiny and happy and better at the end. And then of course comedy, with me and my dad, are going to be comedy every time. I'd rather laugh than cry kind of girl, and comedy, just there's so many things in my life that could be tragic, but instead there's a smile attached, because even if it was something horrific, there was something that could attach the smile to it. Even when I was spending the end of the time with my friend Carol, we had a lot of enjoyment and fun and comedy. Like me telling the hospital when they can never get a pulse, I would say, well, of course, that's when I bring her to the hospital every time she doesn't have a pulse. Of course, that's when I bring her. I mean, we laughed so hard that I would bring her because she didn't have a pulse. But anyway, so, even in tragedy, there can be comedy. And tragedy, of course, gives you that big cathartic moment. And you know what? Tragedy is good too. Sometimes that good cry gets it out of you and makes you see the light and see things in a different way. So that's another
Yes.
good one.
And we talked about going back to the quest for a minute. The one that just popped into my head because I just rewatched it over the summer. If you're familiar with the Goonies, they went on a quest.
No, but it sounds fun.
Everyone's like, yeah, what is the Goonies? A more popular one today may be the Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah, okay. That's a
Extremely
quest for
popular
sure.
trilogy. That is a quest format. Um, yeah.
What is Harry Potter? Harry Potter.
Oh, that's true. Yes, that's another popular one.
That's hugely popular. I love that
But
because it
just to
has
give you some
magic.
examples.
sometimes that suspension of belief is one of the best things about
Well, and
story.
that's really popular, especially today, like creating fantasy worlds. Yeah, people get into that. So
And no matter which way you go about it, if I can find my slides again, we want to make sure, even after implementing any of those choices, we want to make sure that we still go back to our flavor framework and make sure that we cover whatever thing we're doing, whatever way that we've decided to create the story, the series, the character, whatever way we decided to do that. And if we, even if we're using those plot models that we just showed you, we still want to wash it through the flavor framework. We still
Yeah.
want to know, did we capture in how we put that together the emotion, the perspective, and that specific detail that brings it on home, so that we know that we created something really special, really unique, and really valuable to someone. So, what do you think?
well, that was fun.
I love it. And next week, we have a special guest that we'll be talking to, Miss Eileen Smith, who we've all known for a number of years. Eileen is a top live streamer, YouTuber, and Amazon affiliate salesperson. She also has a lot of other, reps a lot of other companies, I think like even like Walmart and Sam's and things like that. So she's got a lot of information. We're going to talk about doing YouTube and what's new. We haven't talked about YouTube in a good 6 months, so we need an update about what's going on with YouTube. There's some big changes going on there that we need to know about. And also, you know, looking more into how we're going to optimize our content and media, whether it be through YouTube videos or any other type of format.
Sounds fantastic.
Well, thank you guys for being here. We really, really appreciate you, Lisa Gord, and many others who have been popping in and out. And we are going to try to keep this going each week. And so we have a lot to learn, a lot to share, and we want to keep trying to keep it valuable. Let us know what you're doing with what we're sharing. We've seen some examples of some of the things that we're doing being put into action out there with you guys, and we really love seeing that. We want to model what we're showing you too, and so we're working on some new shows with some new perspectives and new stories built in, and we really, really appreciate you guys being here. So thank you, and we'll see you next week on the Marketing Mirror. And we can't wait till that happens. Thank you for checking out the Marketing Mirror with your host, Sue Ann from Right Mix for Business, and your co-host, Jamie Shine of Clearly Conveyed Communications. Brought to you by Right Mix for Business and Electrocast Media. Thank you.